Hello, and welcome to all our viewers and listeners wherever you may be. My name is MK Smith.
And I'm Bassam Haddad.
And we are delighted to be your co-host for the first episode of Season 3 of Live with ASI, a month of knowledge production. Bassam, did you enjoy your month off?
2 months off. Was it one?
1 month. It was 1 month off. Was it 1 month or 2 months? I don't know.
Did we do July?
Time flies when I'm not with you.
That was such a fake laugh. I was trying to act like it's funny, but it isn't.
It was mean is what it was.
Yeah, okay. Yes. What was the question?
I said, did you enjoy your time off?
Oh, it was awesome. It was really awesome.
What did you do?
Are you serious? Oh my God. We went on vacation with my family.
So nice.
And it was a bit much because we cut it short and came back. It was just too much after COVID to go for such a long time.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. Let's roll the intro.
Let's do it.
We have a great show lined up today with a new podcast titled Syria, Alternative Dialogues, as well as an interview on the legacies of Palestinian feminism, a new episode of the Connections podcast, a new online magazine from our partners at Security and Context, some pedagogical material, new texts out now, and must-read recommendations.
And of course, engaging conversations with Rabia and Nasser, Nada Elia, Mu'in Rabbani, and George Forlas.
As always, you can find all of the content.
Oh, Forlas is the way I should pronounce it. Mm-hmm. Can you use brackets, not parentheses? This is to Muhammad, our fearless leader and scriptwriter. Yeah, George.
I actually found it incredibly helpful the way you read
Forlas. Yeah, but the brackets.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
As always, you can find all the content discussed on the show today in the episode digest, which will be published on Jadaliya in the coming days.
So sit back, relax, and let's get to it.
First, we have a new joint effort between the Arab Studies Institute, Security and Context, and the Syrian Center for Policy Research. The Syria Alternative Dialogues podcast, provides a platform for knowledge production and evidence-based dialogue about domestic and transnational political, economic, and social challenges in Syria's protracted conflict. The podcast aims to make the process of producing knowledge more accessible to the Arab world and discusses the importance of investing in there's like 3 I's, it was some alliteration. Yeah. Importance of investing in integrative networks among researchers and knowledge production institutions on the regional and global levels.
2 episodes are out now. The first episode is a discussion on securitization of food and climate in the Syrian conflict, which I had the pleasure to be involved in as I interviewed Dr. Marwa Dawoodi. And the second grapples with the political economy of militarism and neoliberalism. You can find both of these episodes on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts.
Anywhere you get your
And you can
podcasts.
also find them on SCPR, the Syrian Center for Policy Research website. And we will have all of these links in the digest that will be published in a few days on Jadaliya.
And joining us all the way from Vienna, Austria, we are very happy to have Rabia Nasser, who is an economist, researcher, and co-founder of the Syrian Center for Policy Research, to tell us more.
Hi,
Welcome.
how are you?
Hi.
I'm very glad to be with you.
مرحبا ربيع كيفك؟
أهلا.
We are very happy that you are with us, and we would love to simply ask you to tell us more about the podcast. We do so many things, we get confused. Is it a website? Is it a project? Is it a podcast? فتفضل. If you, I must say that ASI is a partner as well as Security and Context, and I am one of the co-hosts along with Omar Dahi and Rabia Nasser. But we would like to hear it from you, from the horse's mouth, and please share with us what we have done already on the podcast and what to expect.
Yeah, thank you both. And I think this is part of our understanding of the importance of research and knowledge production as part of the enhancing the public space. As all of you know, that we have shrinking public space in the region and in Syria, and during the conflict, this disappearance of public space is a huge challenge for all of us. And we think such a podcast is a small space, but it's an independent one. It's evidence-based one to enhance and engage more as much as we can from the experts, researchers, activists in a proper framework to understand Syria, to understand the situation inside the country, and to look for the future in more alternatives approach. This is how we start the idea that to bring the research and knowledge production from different sources, from different perspectives, to make the discussion more rich and more independent from the mainstream. This is a huge challenge for all of us to as we want to raise the voice, the independent voice against the donors driven podcast and donor driven channels, against the oppressors who control many channels that control the media and the conversation about Syria. So this is for us is important part of this to bring different voices and to think in a participatory approach with the production producers and also with the Syrian people or the people who are interested in Syria to make different understanding and to look differently to the future. It looks very ambitious, no? Bassam?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear
Okay.
you.
We put the logo on the feed, حوارات بديلة, alternative dialogues, and we are very proud actually of this podcast, which we have started talking about in the streets of Beirut. How many years ago, Rabia? How many years ago, honestly, بشرفك, as we say, how many years ago have I been nagging you to start a podcast?
Yeah, I think
Five,
2016,
six,
17,
seven.
so 5 years.
I
Amazing.
love your like data driven answer. Okay. So, yes, and we finally are doing it, and it's not going to stop. Yani, we talked a lot about, starting, and there were some false starts. We actually did have 3 episodes recorded in Beirut, which we will refeature at some point as part of the podcast. Rabia, can you tell us a little bit about where we are headed in the future with this podcast?
As I said, it's for us. It's not a podcast; it's a space. So we hope that to enrich this space with the research, with the discussion, with the dialogue. So I hope that all of us will continue work on this to be like such an informal institution for the future. And I think what we are doing in both languages, so we have dialogues in Arabic and in English for different audiences to encourage more discussions about first to highlight the a critical review for the knowledge production, to highlight on the gaps and encourage more research to be conducted in the areas that need to be diagnosis more. And I hope that also we can encourage different scenarios for the future, different alternative policies. So we'll not restrict or constrain Syria to the key mainstream narratives. In this regard, we hope that we can concentrate on key topics like oppression, for instance, like neoliberalism and militarism, like the political economy of conflict, the health from conflict within the conflict perspective, and we can continue in doing in-depth discussion with people who are experts in this regard. So we are looking for different themes, but also with one comprehensive framework to understand Syria within the region and also to look for the future in alternative way.
Absolutely. And also, we had decided to not restrict our coverage to contemporary topics. So we actually, at some point, we will be going back in time to address matters that have to do even with the formation of the state of Syria, the post-colonial period, as well as the various periods that came after that. So we will be including some of these interviews and discussions as we move forward, because we can glean from them so much about what has been happening in Syria, why did things happen in a certain manner, and maybe have some insight into the prolonged uprising as a function of this historical depth. Is there anything else, Rabia, you would like to share about the podcast, or about SCPR and what SCPR is doing? The Syrian Center for Policy Research is a premier research center that actually is the source for much of the data you will find globally, whether at the World Bank, the UN, and beyond. And we are here at ASI proud to be partners with SCPR and working with them for this and many other reasons, not least Rabia's Superman research and hard work qualities that we all aspire to. Oh, سؤال كان tell us a little
Thank
bit
you
about
for the
SCPR.
exaggeration. And and no, what I want to mention that part of the participatory approach is to engage with the communities and societies. This is in research, but we are not looking just for a scientific discussion that represent our research or other institution research. We want to engage with people in a different way, in a heterodox way, that include the art production, the intangible culture, the history, as you mentioned. So I think we are keen to have different ways to understand the society, not only through the scientific knowledge.
Thank you so much, Rabia, and we hope to have you back as we continue to produce material and enjoy. You're in Vienna right now?
In Vienna, and we will see you within 2 weeks, maybe.
Yes,
in
we will see you
US.
in 2 weeks. We will be discussing this actually a little bit on the show, maybe a little bit about the Syrian, or not the Syrian, everything
Security.
is Syria. The Security and Context conference, which is going to be taking place in Oklahoma City next weekend, not this weekend. Shukran, Rabia. Enjoy Vienna, and I hope to speak with you soon, as usual. MK, did you want to ask him anything?
You got my questions. We're good.
I got, sorry, Rabia, I stole her questions because I was so excited.
Rabia, just know that I am engaged and I thoroughly enjoy listening to your
Thank you very
responses.
much. Okay, of
طيب.
course.
Salam.
Thanks for both of you. Bye-bye.
Bye, my habibi.
Next up, in March of last year, the Palestinian Feminist Collective issued a pledge offering feminist critiques of Zionist settler colonialism. In particular, it responds to institutional attempts to exclude Palestinian feminists from organizing spaces, as well as other attempts to mobilize Orientalist tropes about Muslims and Arabs in order to absolve Zionist violence.
Last month, Jadaliya co-editor Noura Ariqat interviewed Nada Elia, who teaches Arab American Studies and Comparative Cultural Studies at Western Washington University, about legacies of Palestinian feminism. It was an incredibly insightful conversation, which I had the pleasure to be involved in the background, touching on both historical instances of Palestinian feminism and its contemporary, sorry, that was a glitch, and its contemporary struggle and manifestations.
Joining us in just a moment is Professor Nada Elia herself to fill us in on the conversation. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Nada. How are you?
Fine. How about you?
Very
How about
good.
you?
Nada, can I ask you a question before we start?
Yes.
How do we pronounce your last name?
Elia.
Elia. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, because this is what I was wondering. I apologize because my brother's name is Eli, and all we have to do is remove the E and add the A.
It's Elia based
Elia.
on, Eli in Arabic is Elia. The name Eli in Arabic is Elia.
Absolutely. So basically, you and my brother have the same name.
We have the same name.
عظيم جدا. شكرا ندى for joining
You must
us.
be my brother too then. All right.
شكرا كتير for joining us Nada, and we would like to ask you to share with us a little bit about the conversation you've had.
Okay, so I mean, basically, this conversation that I had with Noura and Jadaliya is an expanded version of a very brief synopsis that I gave at. Noura and I are both members of the Palestinian Feminist Collective, and the Palestinian Feminist Collective was launched about, well, almost 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago. It was launched on International Women's Day of 21, and we had our very first in-person meeting. We meet a lot on Zoom, and we've got Signal and WhatsApp. I mean, we're constantly meeting, but this was our first in-person meeting in Southern California. And at that meeting, I was asked as one of the elders who rightly deserves all my gray hair. I was asked to give a brief synopsis of the background, the culture, the historical background before the formation of PFC, like, a historical background of Palestinian feminism, Palestinian diaspora feminism. And I gave, as I said, a very, very brief synopsis, like, the PFC is not coming out of the blue. PFC is following in the footsteps of a long history of Palestinian feminism, Palestinian activism, Palestinian diaspora activism, both in the homeland and in the diaspora, in connection with other primarily women of color, and the hostility we have encountered, the solidarity we have encountered, the alliances we have formed. And so that was as I said, it was a very brief. I was given 8 minutes to speak at the Palestinian Feminist Collective, and I was just like, and then there's this and this and this and this and everybody was like, wait a minute, we want more. And of course, I only had 8 minutes, so that's when Noura said, okay, we need more time. We need you to talk about that some more. And that was the conversation that I had with Noura, that Jadaliya, or your institute, actually, it's at least an hour-long interview. And basically what I was saying is, as I said, we, the PFC, the Palestinian Feminist Collective, did not just emerge out of nowhere. We are following in the footsteps of, activism that predates Israel as much. Everything Palestinian predates Israel, of course, and so, but I mean, if we want to speak of Palestinian feminism, Palestinian activism, Palestinian liberation struggle, it does actually predate Israel. It's, and I was giving some of the milestones. And, as I think back on that conversation, and I think anyone who wants it, obviously, Bassam, you can actually put a link to the interview in the chat or whatever that is, your Ecamm thing here. Is there a chat? Like, anyway, this is my first time on Ecamm. I had to download Google Chrome for it. Anyway.
Google Chrome is very useful. It's more versatile than Safari, Safari.
I usually rely on Safari.
Safari. Did I say so?
Anyway,
Sorry.
So where was I? So basically, all of these moments that there's obviously a need, a desire, a thirst, a hunger for our history, which I hope, I barely touched the surface. There's no way. Even if I had not 8, but 80 minutes, I could not cover it all because of how much there is, and because I don't have all the knowledge, So what I would love, actually, is for, people to just like join and give more information, because I can't cover it all. Nobody can cover it all. Mm-hmm. And even as I was thinking of this, and I've since expanded it, and I'm hoping to get a much longer project out of it, I know that there are so many organizations that we're not even aware of, small groups that maybe popped up and withered away, that played a very important role that we're not aware of. or that are still there and we're not aware of them. So this is my very brief synopsis of the brief synopsis that I gave.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nada. I think MK has a question.
I do. I was wondering, Professor, if you could share with us why you feel it's so important to discuss Palestinian feminism, both in historically speaking as well as in the contemporary moment.
Because Palestinian women, Palestinian feminists have been so excluded from any discussion of feminism, global sisterhood. I mean, I very much dislike that, that expression. But, there's the book by Robin, what's her name? Someone in the 60s or 70s. Sisterhood is global. And that global sisterhood excludes Palestinian women. There's, for example, Hillary Clinton, the example of white feminism, who speaks about, how government should be held responsible for the abuses of women's rights because women's rights are human rights. And yet when it comes to Israel's abuses of the rights of Palestinian women, Palestinian girls, Palestinians overall, it's like Israel suddenly becomes exempt from that. We have been excluded with extreme hostility from activism, from liberal, mainstream, imperial, white feminism in the US, in the diaspora, in Europe, in the global north. And so to actually speak of Palestinian feminism as a vibrant movement that understands, analyzes, is intersectional, and is there, it's not an oxymoron. It's like, yes, of course you can be a Palestinian and a feminist. Yes, of course there is such a thing as Palestinian feminism. And we are very much part of the Global South feminist struggle, the Global South feminist accomplishments, achievements. So, the fact that we have been excluded so much is one reason why it's important to speak of Palestinian feminism. But the other reason is because just as everyone benefits from representation, from seeing themselves. I mean, when I started looking into that and I realized that I was not one of the early feminists, that there's a generation or two before me, it was just like, wow, so eye-opening. And I see young people today, sometimes my students, who look at me like I'm some odd creature. And I go, no, I'm not an odd creature. I'm actually myself the beneficiary of others who came before me who were also Palestinian feminists. So there's so many reasons why it's actually important to foreground, to highlight, to uphold, and show that there is such a thing, because for our own sake, and to counter the erasure, the invisibility, the forced erasure. I mean, it's intentional that we do not exist. And so that's why I think it's important to speak of Palestinian feminism.
Thank you very much, Nada. We are excited to have had this interview, and we hope to have you again soon. And now that you have Google Chrome, it's very easy for you to join us.
Of course, and I will, yes.
شكرا كتير. Take care.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
At this, thank you. At this point, we're going to do a quick interlude, if you will, and it will be about the Middle East Studies Pedagogy Initiative.
Ooh, MESPI,
which actually is one of the cornerstones of the Arab Studies Institute and is producing remarkable material for the classroom. I'll leave you with that, and then we'll join you in just a little bit. So here we go with MESPI promo.
Well, we hope you learned a little bit more about the Middle East Studies Pedagogy Initiative, or MESPI.
Which also gave us a breather, to be
nice.
honest. Yeah, and Yeah, I see Moeen in the green room. And should we just leave them there for a little bit?
Well, we have to introduce the episode anyway, so
Why
just
does everybody
leave them for a second.
Why does
Leave 'em for a
everybody
second.
like to give Moeen trouble?
Oh no, not again.
Okay, we have a little thing, yeah.
Well, not to fear, because we do, of course, have another episode from the Connections podcast. And for those that don't know, Connections combines journalism, analysis, and scholarship to offer timely and informative interviews on current events and broader policy questions, as well as themes relevant to knowledge production. In July, Connections host and Jadalia co-editor Mouin Rabbani spoke with Monica Marks, who is a leading international specialist on post-revolutionary Tunisian politics regarding the July 25th constitutional referendum in Tunisia.
This interview examines the motives and objectives behind the referendum called by President Qais Said and the response to his monopolization of power by Tunisia's political movements and broader public.
And without further ado, we are happy to welcome back Mouin to the show. Hello, friend.
Hello, how are you guys?
Marhaba,
Well, how are
Moeen.
you? Where are you nowadays?
I'm in Montreal.
Wow.
Such an international man.
Absolutely. And Moeen, you have a really wonderful background.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And your
to set
shirt
up my
matches
green
it really
screen,
nicely.
It's really
this'll do
awesome.
for now.
Wow, we love it. We love it. Anyhow,
Thank you very much, Moeen. We will see you next time on LW.
this was so informative. Thank you so much.
Glad you enjoyed it. So,
But seriously, good to see you. We're so happy to have you with
Likewise.
us today. And we're hoping that you can share with us some of the insights gleaned from your discussion with Monica Marks regarding the referendum in Tunisia.
well, I had a fascinating discussion with Monica Marks in July, shortly before the referendum called by Tunisian President Qais Said. And it was basically looking at all the measures he's taken to centralize and consolidate personal power over the entirety of the Tunisian state, and she gave various insights. And among the most interesting, I thought, was that she compared Sayed to the former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi in terms of his being completely idiosyncratic and claiming to have pioneered a kind of new way of state building and governance. And that's where we left things in anticipation of the referendum, which, as predicted, Sayed handily won with a real or contrived overwhelming majority. Although Monica did point out that there is a substantial sector of Tunisian public opinion which either supports him because, on account of the failures of the Tunisian state since the 2011 uprising, or have descended into apathy.
Any other episode? Oh, thank you, Moeen. I mean, this is this actually I enjoyed listening to that interview because I am actually teaching a class where we are addressing the uprisings and the aftermath within a political economy context in the Middle East. So thank you for that. Are there any episodes in the works you'd like to share with us? And
Well, since you mentioned it, the new season of Connections begins on the
you have seasons
14th.
too, because this is season 3.1. Sorry, season 3 of the Arab Studies Institute of the Arabs of
Live with
Arabs.
ASI. There we go.
Live with ASI.
We got
So,
there. Live with the
and-
Arabs.
and-
That's a fun name.
No, I didn't hear that.
Live with the Arabs and Mary Kate.
I think that's what we should call it. Live with the Arabs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As it happens, the first episode of the new season of Connections will also feature Monica Marks, because when I initially approached her to do the interview in July, we agreed that it would be useful to have one prior to the presidential referendum, and then one in September to kind of do a retrospective on what's actually happened since the referendum. The other one I'm working on with Jadalia co-editor Muriam Hali Davis is a series of interviews on examining 60 years of Algerian independence, and those will be recorded and broadcast later in the fall.
Thank you so much, Mu'in, and I hope that we could actually, end up doing something that we've done before, which is maybe you and I have a conversation, but in the other direction. We would actually like to ask you, now that we have you, we would like to ask you to shed a little bit of light on what happened this summer. We have some material on Jadaliya dealing with the basically the bombardment of Gaza this summer. And we also have in the works a MELT, Middle East Learn and Teach on Gaza, which reproduces some of the material we've had before in a similar post, which provides links and readings for educators and the broader public. But if you can give us a snippet on what actually happened, just a minute or two, what happened in Gaza this past summer, and why is it different, if it is at all, than the previous lawn mowing?
Yes. Well, briefly, Israel began, in my view, deliberately provoking Islamic Jihad by constantly hunting down and arresting senior activists and leaders throughout the West Bank. And pretty much as expected, it then elicited a number of threats from Islamic Jihad that it would respond. And Israel chose to view these threats as essentially an act of war, and began conducting a bombing campaign against the Gaza Strip. In this instance, focusing very much on Islamic Jihad, but not bombing targets associated with the movement that currently governs the Gaza Strip, which is the Hamas movement. And I think what it was trying to achieve here was to, on the one hand, put Hamas in its place by basically saying, you're not going to do anything to respond to Israeli attacks on Islamic Jihad, because if you do, you will lose all the kind of privileges which are more akin to crumbs, which we've thrown your way since the previous year's assault on the Gaza Strip. And I think it's also related to the upcoming Israeli parliamentary and leadership elections, in the sense that a caretaker prime minister, Yair Lapid, had just been appointed. He has no security background apart from inciting aggression and bloodshed in his previous career as a journalist. And I think this was also a way for him to kind of bolster his credentials as someone who can assault and bomb the Gaza Strip along with the best of them in anticipation of next month's Israeli elections.
Thank you, Mu'in. We really appreciate your commentary, and we actually had you comment on the last time this happened, and you've written extensively about it. So thank you for giving us an impromptu summary. Hope you enjoy your time in Montreal. There are
you.
lots of amazing restaurants there, apparently, and I hope to see you. Yeah, go ahead.
Good. And Bassam and MK, always a pleasure. Great
So
to
nice
talk
to see you.
See you soon.
All right.
Salam.
Bye.
Salam. Bye.
All right. Next up, we have more exciting news from our partners at the Security in Context Initiative, who have recently launched a new online magazine and blog titled Global Insecurity. If you're not already familiar, Security in Context is an international research initiative that aims to redefine the policies and practices of security and influence debates on the futures of war, militarism, and international political economy.
Their team of international scholars centers the need of societies over states to demonstrate why rethinking military and security policy is key to addressing the world's most pressing problems, including global inequalities and environmental injustice, as a source of new research, debates, and pedagogical tools. Oh,
New sentence. It's okay.
no, I'll tell you what's going on. Because this needs like a 2 degrees movement, I can't see the first letter. So I didn't see it as capital.
مش مشكلة.
What do we do now? No, I'm joking. Muhammad, everything's okay. I love how Muhammad actually mobilizes.
It's ready.
Like we're like so cool about this, and Muhammad is like boiling. As a As a resource of new research, debates, and pedagogical tools, the new Global Insecurity magazine will serve as an essential resource on global issues.
And in just a moment, we will have Associate Professor of Applied Ethics at Hampshire College and Senior Managing Editor of Global Insecurity, George Forlos, on to tell us more. Welcome, George.
Hello, how are you?
Well, how are you? Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, George.
Hello.
We are so excited to have you here today to tell us a little bit more about this exciting new project from Security in Context. We're hoping that you could tell us a little bit about your involvement with Security in Context and what exactly this new online magazine hopes to achieve.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so my involvement with Security in Context, I guess initially stems from working together with Professor Omar Dahi at Hampshire College. We've collaborated for many years now. He's a good friend, and I think we agree on a lot of things, right? So he brought me in, I don't know, a couple months ago to help sort of spearhead the launch of the magazine and the blog. We finally got things off the ground a couple weeks ago. And I think the general goal of it is to, offer an opportunity both for SIC researchers as well as sort of a broader network of folks to respond to real-time events as they happen. But it's also an opportunity to showcase research that's happening in sort of a more public-facing way. Obviously, I think it could be other things as well, and it's emergent, right? So we'll see what's going to happen with it, but we're quite excited about it. Yeah, you can see the page here. We have a weekly media roundup for our readers, who are interested in sort of what's going on around the world and haven't had an opportunity maybe to skim quite the same way. We have several recent posts, and we have more on the way. And for folks that are interested in submitting, you can email me directly at globalinsecurity@securityincontext.com. We're accepting pieces, shorter pieces between 500 and I think 700 words is what we say, 750 words, but also longer articles up to 2,500 words. On any topic is up for grabs, right? Send us a pitch, and if we don't like it, we just won't publish you.
Fantastic. Thank you. That was going to be my follow-up question, is if you could give us some a little bit of a taste of what sort of thematic content our viewers might submit to Global Insecurity. But it sounds like it's a...
Can we just ask it anyway, George? Because
okay, sure.
we kind of... No, I'm joking. Halas. It's all good.
Yeah. So seriously, we're very happy that you joined us. And it's good to meet you. We have not met before. Yeah, you as well. And we'll see each other in about a week, right?
Yes, exactly.
I'm jealous. I want to go to this conference.
It's in Oklahoma City. I'm very excited. Do you all want to go so we can do like an ASI?
You didn't invite me yet.
I know. First, we didn't get invited on Basam's summer vacation. Now we're not invited to this conference. What's next?
Do you want to write my presentation?
Yeah. Yeah, give me the topic. I'll try my hand.
Searching with you for months.
George, we want to have you back again because we enjoyed speaking with you.
Yeah, I would love to come back, and thank you for this.
And maybe like say something more later as the magazine develops. We have not only do we have a relationship with this newsletter because we have a relationship with SIC, but we're profound partners with the Arab Studies Institute and Global Security in Context. So I hope that we can continue to feature your work, and we will be actually featuring some of the pieces on Jadaliyya from the Global Insecurity magazine.
Yeah, great.
And of course, in addition to linking the magazine in the episode digest, we will also be sure to list George's email. So if people have submissions,
Absolutely.
They can easily reach you.
In the digest.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Next up, pedagogy. The team at the Middle East Studies Pedagogy Initiative, MESPI, recently published a new installment of the Engaging Books series. For those that don't know, Engaging Books is a monthly series featuring new and forthcoming books in Middle East studies from publishers around the globe. Each installment highlights a trending topic in the Middle East North Africa publishing world and includes excerpts from the selected volumes.
This installment involves a selection. See, I need to do this. It's not good.
Do you want to just read and then I'll say the first letter and then you go?
Yeah, this installment involves a.
Or you would say election.
I would say
Election. Yeah.
No, that was good, right? Okay, that
Shukran.
was really good. This installment involves a selection of texts from Syracuse University Press on the theme of parliamentary politics in the Middle East, covering topics such as the Iranian experience with the Second Majlis from 1909 to 1911, the Israeli Labour Party, and the development of autocratic parliaments in Egypt.
Wonderful. If you want to try and move that down, because I cannot, thank you. You can find this installment on MESPY's website, mespi.com, or in this episode's digest, which will be published in the coming days. Next, we'll go over to a couple of new texts out now.
Andrew Simon's Media of the Masses explores how audio cassettes technology empowered an unprecedented number of people to create culture, circulate information, and challenge ruling regimes long before the internet entered daily life. The book operates as a sort of mixtape, with each track or chapter revolving around a particular theme, from consumption, the law, and taste to circulation. شو هيدا؟
And consumption, the law,
And taste?
maybe like methods of circulation? Means of circulation? I don't know.
Taste.
Don't bother him, it's fine.
And taste to circulation, history, and archives. Everyone from smugglers and singers to politicians and police officers play a part in the story, which strives to advance a series of conversations in Middle East studies.
This is really interesting to me as a text too, because recently artists are doing this new trend where like they not only sell their music like in CD or on vinyl, but they're once again selling stuff on cassette. And I want to know where I'm supposed to play it.
I have like about 6 cassette players.
I would like
stashed.
to take
number 1,
all 6 home.
Number 2, the one good thing about capitalism is that they will emerge.
They'll come back, just like record players, I suppose. Anyhow, the next text we're going to discuss is Iranian Women and Gender in the Iran-Iraq War by Matteo Mohammed Farzaneh, which unpacks the often overlooked role of women in the Iranian war effort. The author discusses how women participated in the war, from the most mundane to the most skilled and critical of tasks. The contextualization of their roles is achieved by critically analyzing sources that they produced or documents such as testaments, photographs, and interviews.
I think that's yours.
Amazing. And now we'll leave you with some must-read articles.
In a piece titled Turkish State Violence and Kurdish Self-Determination, the PKK and the Conundrum of Innocence, Özlem Goner looks at 2 foundational instances of colonial state violence and anti-colonial struggles against the Turkish state. The piece illuminates how Kurdish resistance is often analyzed from within state discourse, where self-defense and potential claims to self-determination are readily criminalized. Goner argues that most discussions of the PKK today ultimately reproduce colonial state discourse, where violence is recognized only through tamed notions of state-defined legality and human rights, without reference to colonial violence and anti-colonial struggles.
And another piece that we would love to recommend to you is by Sanad Taba, which is a piece titled Researching... Taba.
Yeah.
Gotta hit the ayin at the end. The piece is titled Researching the Middle East, The Internet is Not Your Friend.
Did I just...
Amen.
Did I just man something?
No, you corrected me as a non-native speaker how to properly pronounce it, which I
Sorry.
appreciate. No, I do. That's the only way I'll learn.
Azim.
The piece is titled Researching the Middle East, The Internet is Not Your Friend. Amen to that. Where the author discusses the problems that arise when relying on the internet to conduct research on the Middle East. Popular ideas are, by design, difficult to dislodge from the internet for a variety of reasons, and the way the search engines operate exacerbate these sorts of issues. This is a must-read for anyone concerned with the problematics of internet-driven research, particularly regarding the Middle East and the Arab world.
Jadalia's Arabic page published another installment of the On This Day series, which is a collaboration with the Lebanese As-Safir newspaper. This post commemorated the 35th anniversary of the assassination of legendary Palestinian political cartoonist Naji Ali, and features articles pulled from As-Safir's archives from the 1980s. And we have a number of posts commemorating different events coming up once a month. The next one will be on about 9/11, the attacks in New York and Washington and Pennsylvania that were actually captured by As-Safir, and we are very happy to feature these on this day events, which are courtesy of As-Safir newspapers' new open source archives for the most part. Anyone can actually go through their archives. You can acquire all the readings, the stories, the content. There will be a paywall for many of the pictures and the images. It's a remarkable resource that I advise anyone to check out at assafir.com, which we will also put on in the digest. And let me just share with you the post from في مثل هذا اليوم اغتيال ناجي العلي. It's in Arabic, and I'll just go over some of the details in the post from Jadaliya. Here we go. Let me see. All right.
Beautiful.
So here is the post. And of course, this is a slideshow, which you could use to take a look at the different images. This is Najil Ali from, I think, in late 1970s picture, probably. And next is the As-Safir first page, main page, front page, محاولة اغتيال ناجي العلي, the attempt to assassinate Naji Ali, a bullet in the head from an unknown killer, and then a number of other material, which is very interesting also because we have asked our colleagues Rabia Salman and Ahmed Salman from As-Safir to share with us some of the anecdotes from these particular days, including ads that people would be looking at 30 some years ago.
Bassam, I should ask, because I know in the past, for some of our As-Safir posts, we've had an English translation come out in the weeks following. Is that something?
There is an English translation that has been delayed, but it will be out either this week or early next week before the 9/11 on this day installment appears.
Great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. There is an English version of everything that we have been publishing from this series. Next is one of the cartoons by Naji Ali, دور النفط في التطبيع, which is the role of oil in normalization, in brackets with Israel, that is. That's another one where you can see the image of Jesus throwing a rock. Another is the culture page on As-Safir's issue from that from the same issue with a conversation with Naji Ali from 1983. This is another that I actually have in my office. It says Handala, who is the figure, the iconic figure from Naji Ali's cartoons, saying مقالك اليوم عن الديمقراطية عجبني كتير, شو عم تكتب لبكرة? Your article today on democracy is something I liked a lot, and what are you writing for tomorrow? And then he writes, or the person in the picture answers, عم بكتب وصيتي, I'm writing my will. So this is to commemorate or to symbolize the sort of lack of freedom of press in the region. This says no to لا لكاتم الصوت, no to those who what is كاتم الصوت in English?
Silent voices?
The silencing. Well, it's kind of like it's used for guns, the silencer for guns. Yeah, it's even more daunting. These are images of a gentleman saying فلسطين بلادنا. Palestine are is our country, is our country, is our country, and then he passes, and then the younger generation continue the message, and so on and so forth. I will let you take a look at this on Jadaliya, and it'll also, of course, be listed in the digest, but you can go to the Arabic section and scroll down to find it, and these are the actual pages listed inside the post with a quote from the magazine. Again, everything will be also available in English, and we are excited that what did I just do? We're excited that we're publishing the series and hope to continue publishing more of these, which will toggle back and forth from Lebanese matters, regional matters, and international matters.
And with that, brings us to the end of our show. Look at that. And just, shukran. I got too relaxed. To lean back. That brings us to the end of our show, covering more than a month of knowledge production. And look at that, in just under an hour, too.
That's awesome.
Look at us.
Yes.
Please be sure to check out the episode digest on Jadaliya later this week for links to all the content we covered today, as well as the contact information for people such as George, if you're interested in submitting to the Global Insecurities magazine. And we have so enjoyed recapping the latest in knowledge production with you.
You're not reading any of this.
I know. I'm freestyling it.
You're making shit up.
That's how I've made it this far, yeah.
Muhammad, can we say shit?
Go ahead.
All right.
Shit.
Thank you all.
You said it, so I wanted to. Okay.
Thank you to all our guests and viewers. Thank you to all our guests. Is this proper? Thank you to all our guests. Thank you.
Louder.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a little too formal for me. Thank you for joining us. And we are happy to see you again next month on episode 3.2, where we will be covering the month of September and also making the 12th anniversary of Jadaliya probably more visible than we have today, because Jadaliya actually started 12 years ago. And it was launched at the end of September 21st/22nd, after 3 months of publishing, which was actually not available to the public. We had this very basic plan of publishing a few dozen pieces without actually access to the internet on purpose, because we wanted to open up in September or launch in September and have our readers see a coterie of articles. And we are beyond this. We're not excited anymore. We're just very happy and proud of that moment that was such an unknown for us in terms of where we will be going. And here we are 12 years after, and we will be publishing a few notes on on the legacy, and without as much fanfare as before. We kind of stopped the fanfare after the 10th anniversary because صار كتير يعني too much.
We'll go big for 20.
We'll go big for 20. The other anniversary that we are addressing this year is the 30th anniversary of the Arab Studies Institute.
It's older than I am.
Not older than me.
They don't need to know that.
They can take a look. So we are very excited to do that, which we will commemorate in the fall in some way, and also a bigger version probably in the spring. Thank you all for being with us, and we will leave you with our credits. Anything else you want to say, MK? No. Muhammad? Assalamu alaikum.
Before we end this stream, we are coming back with breaking news, because I'm sure this is where you go for your breaking news.
Hold on.
Picture's black.
The picture is black, which is maybe fitting because I think the BBC goes black.
Yeah. I don't have this on. I don't have this on. We're not supposed to be happy, but we're not happy.
We're not happy.
We're just all right. Muhammad just informed us something that I will let MK, because she's white, talk about it.
The Queen of England is dead.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.
How long do you think I feel like she's been dead since like yesterday. Oh my god. Why did you unmute?
That's not funny.